Hello and welcome to today's talk. It's Saturday the 5th of August now. I want to play you a clip today from Senator Matthew Canavan, Australian Senator. This is the Senate Education and Employment Legislation Committee, and Pfizer Australia were there purportedly to answer questions. Now, I really hesitate to inflict psychological pain on you, but I think it is probably necessary to watch this. It only lasts for about 7 or 8 minutes. Please don't throw anything at your equipment. It's not the fault of your computer screen that these guys seemingly just don't want to answer any questions. It'll drive you mad, this clip, but do watch it, because, you know, I'm just so disappointed in my regulatory authorities and the way that we were given information, disinformation, some might say, in the early stages of the pandemic about vaccination, and it's just absolutely infuriating. And you know, I had 3 of these things, and you know, I just feel totally deceived and let down. And enough from me. Over to Senator Campbell. Thank you.
Pfizer hopes that its appearance at this public hearing assists the Senate committee.
Thank you. Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for appearing today and your evidence. Did Pfizer test whether your COVID-19 vaccine could stop or reduce the transmission of the virus before its approval and rollout in late 2020?
Senator, to bring this vaccine to patients, we were required to show that the vaccine was safe and effective in preventing illness, in preventing severe disease, and in preventing hospitalisations. The primary purpose of vaccination was and remains to protect the person who received the vaccine.
I'll just repeat the question. I appreciate that, but there hasn't been an answer to it. And perhaps I might just add into the record that on the 3rd of December 2020, your CEO, Mr. Albert Bourla, told NBC News, and I quote, when he was asked whether vaccinated people could carry and spread the virus, he responded to NBC News that, and I quote, "I think this is something that needs to be examined. We are not certain about that right now." So was Mr. Bourla correct that as of December the 3rd, 2020, Pfizer did not know whether the vaccine could stop or reduce the spread of the virus?
Senator, as with all vaccines seeking regulatory authorisation, the requirement is to demonstrate in robust clinical programs that the vaccine is safe and effective in preventing the infection, and in this case, in preventing severe disease and hospitalisation.
I might just give you one more. Sorry to interrupt, but I've got very limited time. I've got 5 minutes. So is a yes or no, did you test whether the transmission would be reduced or stopped before the approval of the vaccine?
Senator, we designed our clinical programs in agreement with regulatory agencies, the purpose of which was to demonstrate the vaccine was safe and effective in preventing infections.
Okay. All right. We might just move on then to another, well, not another topic, but on the 14th of January 2021, so just a month, 6 weeks after Mr. Bourla's statement to NBC News, 6 weeks later, the official Pfizer Twitter account tweeted that, and I quote, "The ability to vaccinate at speed to gain herd immunity and stop transmission is our highest priority." On what evidential basis, what evidence did Pfizer have to make that public statement to imply that vaccination could stop transmission?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the context or the details of those comments, but let me just say that the primary purpose of vaccination, the approved product label, the regulatory approvals in Australia and around the world were to prevent infection, prevent severe disease, and prevent hospitalisation. That is what our clinical trial program sought to demonstrate. That was what was demonstrated, and that was the evidence that was evaluated by regulatory agencies, by health authorities, and that was the evidence, the strong, robust clinical evidence that led to the approvals that were received in Australia and in many other countries.
Could I ask you to take that on notice then? The question being on what evidence did Pfizer have for their statement on Twitter on the January the 14th, 2021?
Senator, I'd be happy to take that question on notice and come back to the committee with what information we're able to provide.
So by June in 2021, on the 8th of June, the Pfizer CEO, Mr. Albert Bourla, he tweeted, and I quote, that the vaccine was a critical tool to help stop transmission. Was there any evidence what evidence did Mr. Burler have by that stage, by June the 8th, 2021, that vaccination could stop transmission?
Senator, it has been very clearly demonstrated that the robust efficacy of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine has been a centrally important tool in enabling societies to open up international borders, to reduce...
Okay, I'm asking for what evidence. What is that evidence? Where can you point me to a study that Pfizer or an independent scientist has done that to give grounds for Mr. Burler's statement that your vaccine stopped transmission?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the context of that statement.
Okay,
that we've complied and worked very closely with the regulatory agencies around the world to prove the evidence that they required to approve this vaccine to prevent infections, severe disease and hospitalisations.
Okay, could I ask you to take on notice again the evidential basis for Mr. Burler's comments what was the date? June the 8th, 2021.
I'll be happy to take that on evidence.
Thank you. Do you still believe that the COVID vaccine, your COVID vaccine, is a critical tool to help stop transmission?
Absolutely. It's a critical tool in preventing, as I said earlier, infections, severe disease and hospitalisation.
Okay, that wasn't my question. You did, I think, say absolutely, but just to be clear on that evidence, and if I could get you to clarify it, do you believe, as Pfizer's view, that your COVID vaccine is a critical tool to help stop transmission? Sorry,
I may have misheard your question.
Okay. Okay, that's why I re-asked it. I thought you might have misinterpreted it. But is your view that your vaccine is a critical tool to help stop transmission?
Pfizer's view is that the vaccine is a critical tool in protecting the health of individuals who are vaccinated and enabling society to operate normally as it is at the moment.
Well, okay, I'm taking from that you don't think that it's a critical tool to help stop transmission. You haven't repeated Mr. Burler's statement today under oath, so it doesn't sound like you're that confident in it. What I'm concerned about here is that you have a statement from your CEO that is obviously has huge weight for governments around the world on their regulatory settings, saying that the COVID vaccine could stop transmission or was a critical tool to help stop transmission. Can you point me to any statements made by Pfizer officials, the Pfizer CEO, anything that has pulled back, that has somewhat moved away from that very strong statement of Mr. Burler's in June 2021 that it was a critical tool to help transmission? Have you clarified the record since that time?
Senator, I'm very confident that the evidence that we have presented to regulatory agencies still stands and clearly demonstrates that the vaccine is safe and effective for its intended use.
That's not my question. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry to pull you up. I don't normally do this, but we have very limited time. And you are being very, very shifty here. You are not answering the very clear questions.
Senator Campbell, can I just...
Well, there we have it, that clip from the Senate Education, Employment and Legislation Committee from the Australian Senate. Now, it's hard to believe that Pfizer Australia would deliberately put up low-calibre personnel who are incapable of answering questions, or people who had incredible levels of ignorance about the history of the last few years, given that they are representing Pfizer Australia. So I really can't work out why they didn't want to give straight answers to straight questions. I mean, no one's saying they've got anything to hide. Of course, we're not saying that. But very, very strange. I apologise for inflicting that on you, but I turned my sound off during that, as you can probably notice. But it's just incredible. And I will be contacting Senator Matt Cavaghan and asking him for the results, the full data, as I've contacted Senator Rennick for the full data of questions taken on notice, because Senator Rennick hasn't always had replies to questions taken on notice. So apologies, but necessary so we can learn for the future.